Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another installment of Tips and Tricks for Golf Blitz for Android and iOS. Today, we will be continuing through our progression of courses, and of course, that brings us to Tour 7, the Sticks. Now, this one is interesting for a couple of different reasons, and that's because it throws a lot of the previous formulas that we've looked at up until this point not out the window, but definitely off to the side. So hopefully you're able to learn something and we can kind of enjoy this experience together as we cover some of the ideas that you can employ in your own endeavors as you take on this tour. As always, make sure you check to see if you're subscribed to the channel. If you're not, go ahead and fix that, as there is daily variety content coming to you. And if you enjoyed today's video, make sure that you leave a like, as that helps other people to know that this is something that they might enjoy as well. So without dragging this on any further, let's jump into the sticks. Okay, so this first area is interesting. Now, what you're intended to do, and I'll demo it here with my alternate account, is take shots leading up this path of the goo. But there are a couple of alternate strategies that you can employ, particularly if you have the super ball. You can bypass that section completely, though again, it may not always be worth waiting and holding on to that. And then you'll want to make your way over onto the green. This can be done relatively easily once you get to a certain point on the slant going up. And then if you can make it into that portion, it's just a very simple follow-up shot to actually make it into the hole and complete this course. Depending on the power-up you have available, it may or may not be worth using them to accelerate your way up that ramp. But as a general rule, if it has a higher power stat, that's going to be very beneficial for you. Now, this hole can be interesting, and the reason being is everyone's going to be competing for sections here on the wall, and that means that there's going to be collisions and other things. So it might be in your best interest to wait and let some other people get their shots off first. Otherwise, you're all going to end up down here at the sand hazard at the bottom. What I typically do is I take a shot for this lower section and then anticipate taking a follow-up into the next little plain area here before switching over to this side and getting a nice follow-up shot with whatever power-up I might have on hand at the time, whatever I feel may benefit me in approaching the actual hole, and hopefully ending in the top one or two combatants for the hole itself to score some higher points. All right, this hole is kind of interesting, and I've actually got two power-ups that really kind of work well for different reasons here. The first, of course, is the super ball, and that will allow you to take kind of a rough shot up into this general area. However, if you do have the anti-gravity ball at your disposal at this point, I do think that that's better, as it gives you a higher angle of attack for the green once you've made your way up there, and that circumvents a lot of the nastiness that's down here at the bottom portion of this course. So those are a couple of things that you can do depending on what your resources are. I personally prefer the anti-gravity ball for that particular hole, as it offers a much easier follow-up. So with this hole, there's a couple of different strategies that one can take. One that I used to do was coming over to this side along this plateau. However, that requires either an extra stroke or a very, very difficult follow-up shot where you have to bank off of this lower wall section. So what I have instead started to do is take a higher bounce bank shot to get me onto this platform, and then if you have either the sticky ball or the sniper ball, you can get a very nice follow-up here. Now with the sticky ball, it doesn't really matter because it allows you to hone in right from that edge and have a nice little follow-up. If you have the sniper ball, it will be best to get a shot that's a little higher up on that lip to assure that you are rolling or getting a favorable bounce that will allow you to casually roll into that hole. Now, the other strategy that I could outline for this one is if you don't have the power ball then why do I keep calling it the power ball? If you don't have the super ball, then you can try and use your anti-gravity ball, but odds are you'll just be in a much better situation if you take some shots up along that course. And if you have the grenade, then you can try and sabotage some of your opponents back further down on that ledge or even back into the water hazard to give yourself a little bit more of an edge. All right, with this hole, the biggest piece of advice that I can give is if you have high accuracy, you're going to want to take a high chip shot. Off of either edge is fine. I prefer going over here to the left just because it gets you right down next to the putting green immediately, and that's a very easy follow-up shot after the fact. If you don't have that ability to take a higher bank shot, then you can use one of the platforms or even use your putty ball to stick off of one of the walls, but by far the best move that you can do is what I just demoed there. So for this hole, things get a little bit more interesting. And by that, I mean that you'll want to take a shot that allows you to roll off the edge there. And ideally, if you get down first, you'll have some of your opponents that give you that nice little nudge over the edge for a nice follow-up here. Now, if you have a ball that's decently powerful, you can bank off of the wall there, and that will make sure that you don't roll over into the water hazard down there below. Of course, if you have the anti-gravity ball like I currently have available, you can use that, and that will allow you for a follow-up. But long story made short, you're going to want to get as far ahead of there as possible. And I personally think that the biggest trick for that hole is getting a nice hit right off the top and allowing you to roll down into the lower sections of the course without needs for follow-up shots. This hole can be pretty interesting, and the best strategy for easygoing gameplay, of course, is taking a lower rolling shot that'll just roll and coast right on the top of this ledge. If you take this shot after some of your opponents, if they're trying that same type of strategy, you may even get a favorable bounce that sends you closer to the actual green. Apart from that, the ideal play, or the play that is outlined, is to hit either onto that rotating piece or this platform that's over here on the left, or the right side of the stage, excuse me, and then waiting to get a favorable shot from the roll around there. But there's a lot of variance to that, and you can cut a lot of strokes out of that gameplay by taking the path that I first outlined there. And you can sometimes even get a favorable bounce off of that wall and just drop down straight into the hole, which if you have the bully ball or the heavy ball, I don't know which one they refer to it as, but that will allow you to just drop straight down as soon as you've fallen off of a ledge of something, which will better increase your odds of getting a nice follow-up from there. So with this hole, one of the best things that you can do is, as soon as you get up to this first green, especially in early level play, you just want to hang out right here. And the reason why is it forces your opponents to make some counterplay. Now, I'm trying to take a shot with my alternate account, and I could not get around my ball that was already there. It forces your opponent to make plays that is going to progress your own ball placement. And the same thing goes for down here, with the one exception being it doesn't tend to work as well as the earlier section because your opponents can use this sand trap that's over on the left-hand side to their advantage, and there is a wider space here where they will be able to shoot past you. However, this strategy really falls apart at higher levels of play once you have balls such as the ghost ball and the saw ball, which allow you to move through or destroy your opponent's balls and their placement. And that's just not something that there's a viable counterplay to at that point in time. But early level play, that's a solid strategy that was outlined just now. Well, I played around several times, and I think I've showcased every single course at least once and given my thoughts and opinions on what good strategies to use on these holes would be. Now, as always, if you feel like there's something that I missed or overlooked, please feel free to let me know what that is in the comments down below, and I'm more than happy to showcase that at the top of next week's episode. But between now and then, thanks again for letting me take a moment of your time, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take care, everyone.